So, from what I've read up, you guys also have at Minnesota, you guys have some really good educational opportunities in terms of like conventional dairy and organic dairy. So, what makes those two separate? And then, what are you guys trying to do to kind of learn more about both of those techniques of making milk?
So at our dairy here where I'm at in Morris, we have it's about 300 cows. About 120 cows are organic, and about 180 cows are kind of conventional. It's they're not in a freestall barn, they're not in a barn, so they do graze some. So it's kind of more of a
Hmm.
conventional sort of grazing type dairy a little bit,
Okay.
but they can be confined. They're kind of dry lotted during the summer, so it's kind of like California dairying in Minnesota for the summertime. Um, but we're trying to figure out lots of different things. Can we do well in a grazing environment, in an organic environment, and how do some of these cows in each of the herds compare? So we have lots of different genetics here in both the organic and the conventional herd, so we can do some comparisons on longevity of cows, health problems of cows. We can look at mastitis,
Hmm.
feed efficiency of cows and how well they convert grass or pasture. We're going to be exploring sort of methane emissions of those cows here in the future,
Oh, okay.
comparing the conventional herd and in a more organic grass based dairy herd. um, we've done some comparisons in the past looking at milk quality, fatty acid profiles in the milk. So there's lots of different things. We're calf raising, you name it, we can certainly do it, and we've probably done a lot of that in those animals. So it's fun. It's fun trying to explore, a different production system. Although, organic is not large in the grand scheme of the dairy industry,
Hmm.
5% or more in
Hmm.
Minnesota. So, but it's still it's a viable option for dairy farms. Kind of we talked about. Not everybody has to have Holsteins, so not everybody has to be a conventional dairy either. They can have a grazing dairy herd and still be profitable.
Yeah, it seems like at least I like learning about organic versus conventional, whether it's like dairy or fruit or whatever, because there's so I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of miscommunication between the consumer and the farmer. Like a lot of farmers realize that you could do organic dairy or you can do conventional dairy. It's about what works best for you on your farm and your animals. And so, I mean, like you said, it's not like every dairy has to be organic or has to be conventional. Like just figure out what works best for your animals. And so, I mean, do you think that if you are a if you're a conventional dairy, but you're not being very profitable, do you think maybe you could explore options like maybe doing pasture or maybe doing organic just to see how your cows are to maybe, be a little bit more profitable and a little bit better for the animals?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of options like that, where you can try that. I've talked with some farms and some farmers before. I'd mentioned before, it takes a lot of money to get a
Mm,
heifer to 2 years of age. They're very expensive. So I've worked with some farmers trying to figure out, can we raise heifers cheaper?
hmm.
And we might be able to do that by grazing them instead of feeding them all the TMR and stored feeds over the summertime. If they have enough land, why not graze some of those animals on cheap feed? Feed cost in the summertime on a grazing heifer is less than $1 per day, and if you're feeding them stored feeds, it might be $2 to $3 per day trying to feed them. So it can be very expensive, and you know and you can get adequate growth. You can get the same growth we get. Our animals will calve at the same uh, body weight that
Hmm.
conventional heifers do, and they've been grazing all summer long on nothing but grass, no stored feed. So it's a cheap way. So I think there's lots of options that if farms are having some issues, there might be ways to explore that. And I know that's a tough one because they might be worried about what the neighbors think or what
Yeah. Hmm.
all of that. But I think there's lots of options if farms are willing to explore that. Most definitely.
Yeah, and I'm sure if they go that route, I'm sure they have that one farmer friend that's like, "Hey, you remember 5 years ago you said you'd never do that, and here you are doing it?" I'm sure
Exactly.
that's a common thing that happens a lot.
Oh yes, oh yes. It's always there's always that rivalry in the dairy industry, but and I think everybody wants to see everybody survive. So if it's all about survival. So if a farm has to do and make some drastic changes, I think we should be able to support them and make sure that they actually survive. None of us likes to see farms go out of business. Not at all. Not at
Oh,
all.
yeah, 100%, and I mean, there's been a huge wave the last, like, 5 or so years where dairies have been going under, right? Because, I mean, the price has been crazy, there's all these alternative milks, I mean, it's not like dairy farming is easy, like, there are a lot of businesses, a lot of family farms going under.
Right, there exactly, last year in 2022, I think Minnesota lost almost 200 dairy farms and,
Oh,
about
wow.
5% of the herd. So you see that in Wisconsin too. A long time ago, Minnesota was at 11,000 dairy farms 20 years ago, and now we're a little over 2,000. So we have lost a lot of dairy herds in Minnesota. Obviously, a lot of herds have gotten bigger. We haven't really lost cow numbers. Um,
Mm.
but we've certainly lost dairy farms. So it's a tough one. It's a tough one. I want to see the dairy industry survive in Minnesota, and um, yeah, making sure that there's options for everybody is a positive.
Hey everybody, welcome to our DC studio here with Farm Traveler. If you like this video, consider liking. If you want to comment on it, of course, commenting, that helps us out a ton. And if you want to see more content on Farm Traveler, how you can connect with farmers, some more farm tours, stuff like that, and of course, clips from our podcast, hit subscribe. We just crossed over 1,000 subscribers, so thank you all so much. We have new content every week. And of course, our little shorts here, which are, like reels, but on YouTube. So thanks for watching. Check out more videos. We'll see you in the next one.